Hi, followers of the YouTube channel of Film Gamer, video about video games and also about movies. Now we have I think, a really famous and talented guest here, Justin Bell. He's a composer for many games now and nowadays, and in the near future, I hope. Hi, Justin.
Hi,
Hi.
Andras.
Yeah. And there are many fans of the games that you wrote some music for and composing it. Pillars of Eternity. Now there will be a full Hungarian translation for it by only fans, not an official one, but it will be really good because they have some great games that they translated in the past. Oblivion, Elder Scrolls games, and Skyrim, etc. They have really so many stories to tell, and so many sentences and words to translate it. But here too, because
That's great.
Eternity is a
Yeah,
really, really
that's
great
that's
thing.
that's that's quite a lot, quite an undertaking. That's a lot of
Yeah,
work.
and also just by as a hobby or as by a fan power, not as an official work. This may be harder, but sometimes the heart and the love for a game makes really great quality translations. Here in
Yes,
about The Witcher 2, maybe you heard about that too. They made a really good translation. I hope Pioneers of Eternity will be the same, and also many gamers love Tyranny because the maybe the downside effect, when you can play on the other side, the dark side almost, but there are really many interesting characters also. They're not just black or white, but it's generally more darker than the general type of RPGs nowadays. And you made a video game music, the soundtrack, so for today's these games. So it was really wonderful to hear. I found some composing and also some recording videos live on YouTube. I think it was really, really great. That was your idea, maybe, about
to put the
to put
videos
some
of the
videos about
recordings.
the making recordings of the video music games, video
Yeah,
game music. Sorry.
yeah. I think it seems that there's some people who are really interested in seeing what happens, how we make the music for the games, and it's for me personally, I always like to see the behind the scenes portion of how the things that I really enjoy, how they make those things, and and the thing is that these musicians are very talented, and any way that we can share their talent and the artistry that they put into playing the music that I wrote and other people wrote. I think we should take that opportunity to share that with other people.
And it's a magical moment now. We can say that the moment that maybe you can't copy in the later time at the exact way. So we must celebrate it, of course, no? And with these videos we can see how you can make such an epic and interesting and various themes that we can see in Pirates of the Tyranny, and maybe we can see some possibilities about the basics for it. Why you make these and that way, these type of instruments or etc. So or in these type of musical style. It's really great, and. Can I ask you a question about your past? How you wanted to be a composer and when, or some maybe you have some favorite composers or movies, musics soundtracks that you heard and you were a real fan of it, or some maybe you have some study in the in the secondary school or later in the university? What was the main goal and the main things that you wanted to be a composer?
I studied piano for a very small amount of time when I was very young, maybe around 3 years old, and it didn't last very long. I was maybe kind of a lazy student at 3, and but I really enjoyed playing the piano, and I would play it a little bit throughout my childhood. And when I was 13, I got a guitar, an electric guitar, and I taught myself how to play that. I didn't have any lessons, and so I probably learned a lot of bad habits. And when I went to college, I played it so much during high school and during middle school when I was a teenager that I just decided, well, I love playing my guitar, so I want to continue learning about music. So I went to school for music at a small college, community college. I spent a few years there. I continued to play my guitar, was learning about music theory and recording. And it turned out I was pretty good at music theory too. I guess my mind accepts the puzzle of music theory, and I found it very interesting. And so I just continued to learn that, continued to play guitar, started playing classical guitar, learning the repertoire and performing. I was in a guitar quartet for a classical guitar quartet for a few years. We played a lot of Bach and Tarrega and countless pieces of music from the classical guitar repertoire, and eventually I transferred from the small college to UCLA to study composition specifically. And I don't know why I chose composition. I just felt I always liked to write little songs, and I was always frustrated by my lack of knowledge because I felt I was always writing the same piece of music over and over again, and I didn't understand why, And I wanted to learn, okay, when I hear something in my head, when I can imagine something, I want to be able to realize that and be able to write that down and make that into a piece of music. And so I went to UCLA. They have a small composition department there, or at least they did when I was attending that school. Very traditional school. At the time, it was, they taught you art music. They taught you about classical music, the classical music repertoire, the classical music canon, lots of Bach, constant Bach when you're learning theory, just because he's the master of counterpoint and harmony and melodies and voice leading and all that.
No, the basics.
Beautiful music, and probably one of the most prolific composers. His music is timeless, right? It always applies. You can learn a lot of lessons just from studying a little bit of Bach. And I don't pretend to be anywhere close to how amazing and talented Bach was, but just studying a little bit of what he learned, studying a little bit of his music, teaches you a lot about how to write. So I went there for about 3 years, and I graduated. And I think somewhere halfway while I was in school, I was starting to think, okay, what kind of job am I going to get? I couldn't think of what kind of job I could get as a composer. Maybe movies, I don't know. Maybe writing for concert music for orchestras. But that seemed very unlikely because not many people write music for orchestra and also can have a living, can make money at doing that too. It's very challenging. Not that money is the most important thing when you're making art, but you do have to think about those things, right?
And you have to live with about something, so with money.
Yeah, I mean, you can't escape it. You need to figure that out. Yeah, well, Charles Ives was a insurance salesman, you know, and he's one of the greatest early 20th century composers. So I mean, maybe I didn't have to write music and make money, but you know, anyways, money is not the point. It's you know, I was just thinking, what am I going to do with my life, you know, and yeah, I've been playing games my whole life anyway, you know, and I love them, and I love music for games. I've always loved the music for games, and for some reason, those two ideas came together for me while I was in school, and it was just like, oh, I can write music for video games and put those two things together. That sounds great. I want to do that, and it was a challenge because I didn't know how to do that, though. I knew I wanted to do that, and I didn't know how. And I think at some point it occurred to me, it doesn't matter if I'm making the music or if I'm do something. I just want to work on video games, you know. And so that's when I started to shift my focus over to sound design as well. And I had worked as an audio engineer for a few years, and so I had that experience too. And so I pursued just, you know what, I'm going to just broaden my prospects and say not just music, but game audio altogether. And so that includes the sound effects and implementation and voiceover and the music and the bigger picture of everything that goes into a video game. And I got my first job at a small a small developer who just signed a contract with a publisher. I made sound effects and for many years, and that's a big part of my. And so fast forward to today, and that's, you know, still a big part of of what I do at Obsidian. My role here is the audio director. So, you know, I really enjoy being able to take time and write music, but that's really a small portion of what my focus is. I have to, you know, my main responsibility is to ensure that all of our games have all of the sound effects that you might need for that. For the types of projects that we make sure that they sound good and coordinate with all the other teams. And so that's the trajectory of how I came to this point. But when Pillars of Eternity came along, my dream had always been, I want to write music for a game where the story is very rich and interesting, and, you know, in a world where there's fantasy elements, you know, and I've always loved RPG games. And when Pillars of Eternity came to Obsidian, I had to seize the day, and I said, I want to write the music for that. And people were like, are you sure? And I said, yes, I went to school. I've been playing music for so many years. You know, this is my dream. And I insisted that I would do it. And I'm so grateful that you know, people enjoy the game and they enjoy the music for the game, and they feel like that the music complements the game.
You saw it first yourself on the Kickstarter project, or where you first see it, where you know about it firstly, you know, on the internet, on the Kickstarter page, or maybe you heard about it by talking about with someone, your friends, or etc. Where you heard it first?
About Pillars of Eternity?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
the possibility of making it.
I see. So I started working at Obsidian in 2010. The first project I worked on was Fallout New Vegas. We shipped that in 2010, and then we shipped later on. We worked on Dungeon Siege 3, and I worked on that as well. And then we moved on to South Park: The Stick of Truth, and then another game that got canceled. And when that game got canceled, we started thinking about, okay, well, what are we going to do now? And the Kickstarter was the idea, and the idea was to make a game in the style of the Infinity Engine games like Baldur's Gate. And so I was there when we created the Kickstarter video, and I was part of the team that helped to create that video, which is in many ways the first impression that a lot of people had when they learned about it. Was called Project Eternity at the time. So I was involved with that whole process in that limited way very early on.
I see. And hearing that many kind of type of work, yeah, it may be some fans can think that it was a work of eternity, if I can say it.
Yeah.
It was a real huge and hard work, yes, but
Yes.
it was a pleasure also because you can work what you like the most, yeah. So it was a great balance between the work and the pleasure, yeah. But sometimes I think you must manage your free time as well, because this all type of sound voicing, composing, sound making, effects, everything else, I think it is really a huge kind of work. How you manage to balance, your free time also and the different type of sound, voice, and music possibilities, and also composing, and how you can mix them. You must focus, the voices, the sounds, designs for the music, or vice versa, or not. So how you can handle this type of work when you can make all of the audio of the video game.
Fortunately, here at Obsidian, we have a team of sound designers. We have 3 other sound designers at the company, and you know, and I would be lying if I said that I could manage everything on my own, and I certainly can't. And we have a big responsibility here because our games tend to have many sounds, and they all are interrelate with one another, as you say, in very complex ways. So it's quite an effort, I think, for everyone on the team to manage that, and I'm not going to lie, it is a challenge. It does take a lot of focus and a lot of dedication, and sometimes that does bleed into your personal life. Working in video games it can be a lot of work. It's quite a lot of work, in fact. And
yes, and sadly, many people don't think that. They think that making a developer video game is just fun and it's easy, And sadly, many people not see as a really great department or industry as the video games. They just almost see that as a, sorry for the word, shit or something like that. So it's really sad to see that in the 21st century. But sadly,
Yes.
there are many type of kind of conservative way thinking men's and women's there. And also many, many girlfriends maybe departed from their boyfriends because of some playing video games or something like that. So it is
Yes.
it is really a bad thing, I think. But
Yeah.
in the USA, in America, and many types of Western countries, hopefully, and I can see nowadays that it is much more or less now this type of thinking, way of thinking, and also this type of people. And there are more and more people who can find the really great features and story, the depth of the characters, the music, the depth of your musical also in the game, and find the arts features, the art part of the video games, because now I think many video games works as a fully in quality of art, as not just pleasure and entertainment. And I think your music use as the way of not just pleasure, because you can write really well and deeply for the characters, deeply in their body, if I can say so. When we hear a theme, we can know that how it represents a character, or how of the some part of the story, or etc. So it's a really great thing. Mm, you see that maybe this will change nowadays. That there will be more and more people who will play games, and also not just play. Will see the art. the video games as well, not just the pleasurement or the easiness or lightness around it, because they just feel, that it is not so, how I can say, it's not so hard, and also not so a classical way of working also in general, and that it is in real life. So it's really a bad thing, I think. Yeah.
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 I agree. I think more and more video games are accepted as a form of art and more than just a toy. I guess maybe if you really want to be cynical about it, yes, technically it's just a form of entertainment and a toy. But for me, it's much more important than that. Personally, I do use it as a form of artistic expression. I'm very fortunate that I am lucky and very blessed that I'm able to do that every single day. And I think that more and more people are starting to look at it in those terms as well, and that's great, because that means that when I spend a lot of my extra time, my personal time, and I'm doing this thing that I want to resonate not only with myself, but I hope resonates with other people, and then I hear that actually happens. That's why I do this in the first place, because maybe I'm a bad communicator, and music is really the only way that I know how to communicate. It's the ultimate form of expression for me, and I always will look for an opportunity to inject that into my work. Now, there's the other side of the coin where, at the end of the day, video game developers it's a business as well. We're providing a service, really, because there's a demand for interactive storytelling. And from the business perspective, there's deadlines, so sometimes you have to compromise. Maybe your artistic vision is bigger than the amount of time that you have to work on the game, and you have to figure out, there's middle ground where you have to constantly think about compromise and figure out how can we achieve the vision in the amount of time that we have available.
But you can make the best game with the possible money, time, etc. behind the budget. What you can do, but I think you did that because you made these teams where we fans, and also maybe you, feel really great feelings about the characters or about the world, also the whole world, about the mood of this world, and also about the different stories, also the villages, etc. It's a really complex, just the music as well, because you must focus on many parts, characters, towns, themes, and also about the world, maybe some great characters, gods, etc. in this fantastic type of RPGs. So it sounds really complex, but the first Pillars of Eternity team was the main team, the title team, the era. It is the name of the world, yes?
Yes.
Yes. And how have you begun to compose it, or what was your main goal with it, and what kind of instruments you used about it for the greatest themes that you can made? And it was really great. So
thank you. That's a great question. So for Aora, the title theme of Pillars of Eternity, the first game, going back to the story of Pillars of Eternity, hopefully this is not too much of a spoiler, but there is a plague that is affecting small children in the world of Pillars of Eternity, and just that idea alone to me there's a very deep human question. So I started to think to myself, what would it be like to live in this world where this plague is affecting children? What if I'm a parent and my child has this plague, this plague, and I see my children suffering because of this plague? And what would that do to society? What would that do to communities? What would that do to your neighbors and to your relatives? and how would that feel, and what would that be like in this to live in this world. And so, what I wanted to do for the main theme, if you look back to Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale and Planescape Torment, they all have these themes that are very epic, and they're great themes. You hear the theme for Baldur's Gate, and if you played that game, you immediately think, yes, and it gets you very excited,
The
to
memories
play the
come
game.
back.
The memories immediately come back. And I think initially there was the idea that we would do something kind of like that too. And I think that was the expectation of a lot of fans for Pillars of Eternity, because we were saying that we were going to make a game that's like Baldur's Gate and like all these other games, but just a little more modern. And my take was, I didn't want necessarily to just get your energy going and your blood pumping. I wanted to tell the story of the world of Eora. What is it like to be a person? What is the personal human connection, the human side of this game that we're making? And
it made it more believable also. It's a fantasy game, yes, but you can more deeply, dive into the world and also into the characters around it. So it was really more reliable place, more
yes,
full of life, more full of life than just a bench of just toy, as you said. So it is far better beyond that. It is a whole new world, but many type of things that we can resemble to our world, or the history of our world. So it is really, really good, and it is in the music as well. Yeah.
yes,
So
and that was the idea. I wanted to take the listener on a emotional journey with Eora, where so that's why the music starts off so simple, and then it builds so big, because the if you think about it metaphorically, maybe I'm inserting metaphor into this that isn't there, but the story begins, maybe it's the story of a mother and a father and their child, and sort of the simple innocence of that, and then it slowly blossoms into the connections that we have together as human beings, and then it culminates in sort of what the consequence of society, and and then it ends with, perhaps things are not always as simple as they seem. Maybe that's very 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 high concept.
It's beginning generally these great things, and maybe the great things in the world and events beginning, with little things, but spread it across the whole world in a little time, and it maybe evolved to a real bad thing, maybe just for world war, uh, for example, or it can be a
Yes.
really, really great thing, or great Olympics, or as well. The little ideas and little events can spread to many epic, great or not so great things. So it is filmed that way.
Yeah, it's kind of, that's life, right? Life is
Right.
filled with so
Full of
many.
surprise and possibilities also, but sometimes
Yeah.
we must prepare for anything because
Yes.
we can't know what is the near future for us. So
Yeah.
it is
It's beautiful and also full of sorrow at the same
Yes.
time. That's life. It's bittersweet.
Yes, and also a little bit of this theme, bittersweet, because it has positive moments and feelings for our soul, but sometimes it's really sad and sorrow, as you said. So, but it's quite fitting for the story, for the basics of the world in the story. It's quite great. And
Thank
then
you. Yeah.
later
I'm glad that came across to you.
yes, and I was really glad to hear that. Also because many, there are some not so good video game music where they just using the scores for just pumping you or something like that, but not for the characters, for the soul of the world of the game. You just use it for some making some interesting noises or some exciting action sequences better, but not so advanced. So in this type of games for RPGs and also Pillars of Eternity is not in this type of league. It is far more better because you can make some more varied themes for many things, and later you make some themes for characters and also maybe some sections of the world or some territory. Deerwood,
Yes.
Gilded Vale, for example, or some
Right.
or Ondra's Gift, Twin Elves, etc. They there were on the YouTube channel as well. And how you manage to make the characters or the territory teams, because I heard from some other composers that maybe it is harder sometimes, but if you can have some great ideas that can uh, dive later into better and higher and epicer teams, you can make really great and pleasure character teams. But sometimes for movies, it's far more hard. They said hard to make really great character teams or main movie teams, because you must manage to make it in many type of with many type of instruments, many new modes and way. The same thing, but you must suit it for another kind of way. Where you hear the main theme, but it has so many other type of varied styles as well, not just the generic basics type. And these character themes makes the way you can, if I can say so, you can find new ideas and for each character, and also you can invent more, not general, more maybe I can say some more. How can I say so?
Specific.
Specific, yeah, that's the word. Then with the main team are really good, but sometimes it can be far too many. They use it for more times than needed to. But in this game, it is really good. The balance is really good. But in some games, it is used far more than needed to. And with character teams, you can manage to do some new ideas, and but sometimes it can be harder. Or now, what is your feelings about that? You really like to do character teams?
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to build a connection between the music and the narrative and the characters themselves. And obviously, many movies and operas have done this for many years. And for Pillars of Eternity specifically, there were some considerations that we had to keep in mind. To do that for a video game, to do that effectively for a video game, you need a certain amount of interactivity, which needs to be aware of when the appropriate time to play one of those things are. So your music has to be constructed in a way that is a little flexible to allow for the chaotic nature of video games. It's hard for us to predict at times what the player is going to do, and they may not do it in the way that we expect them to do. So the system that plays back the music has to be flexible enough to be able to accommodate a variety of different choices. And for the first Pillars of Eternity, we just simply didn't have the time or resources to develop the underlying software that would be required to manage those things in a way where the end result was acceptable. So instead of focusing on character themes, the themes were more focused and written for areas. So like you say, Gilded Vale, Andra's Gift, Defiance Bay, Twin Elms, Burial Isle. The areas themselves had music that was tailored for the narrative of that area. So Gilded Vale is sort of it's the first time you learn about Widewind's legacy, which is the plague that is afflicting so many children. And so the music is a little simple and innocent, and also a little sad, but maybe not too heavy. because Gilded Vale is a very, bad things are happening there, and it's very tragic what's happening. So the music is slightly tragic, and that follows you through into Deerford. But when you get into Defiance Bay, it's a bigger city. There's more people there. There's more life. It's not an isolated little town. It's there's more going on there. So, and it's a big major quest hub of the full game. I mean, all of our towns are quest hubs, but this is one of the bigger ones. And so the music was just a little bit more uplifting there because there's more stories to tell there than simply just this one tragedy that's sticking, that is the focus of the town. And that's the way that we handled themes mostly was, here's the town, here's the story around the town. So I wrote music that tried to complement what the player was experiencing and what was going on. There were two themes, though, that there were two character themes in the game that I used for Theos, which is the antagonist of Pillars of Eternity, and one for Widewind's Legacy, which is the plague that I was talking about, which afflicts all the children. So whenever you hear that one theme for Widewind's Legacy, and whenever you hear the Theos theme, the Theos is the cello. It's a small cello, da dee da 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 da. You can hear that there, and then there's the Widewind's Legacy, which is sort of the small choir where la da dee da da dee da da dee da da. And I use those in moments that were appropriate for where something would come together, and Widewind's Legacy would become part of the topic, or Theos would introduce himself.
It's really great. Not just the story comes together, but you can feel it here in the music. So that's really great idea. Also, and you have really great combat musics for the combat. I think different types, maybe 3 type of combat music.
Yeah,
fans I really like that. How was composing more exciting and action type of soundtrack? It is harder or not so harder? It is funnier?
It is harder in a way because so going back to the limitations that I was referring to, we couldn't do a lot with the music. We could start the music and we could stop the music. So when combat starts, we start it. When combat ends, we end it. And it doesn't matter if you're fighting a little spider or a big dragon. It's always going to be the same kind of excitement.
Or with the boss, but it is different. Yeah, with the boss, you need a new type of combat music.
Yes, that's true. We did have, for the base game, unfortunately, I tried to reserve a piece of music that we used mostly for bigger encounters like dragons or bosses or something like that, but we didn't have the time to develop specific boss battle music for one particular boss. But the concept behind the music for the combat music was, one of the things that we were promising with this game is that it would remind you of the Infinity Engine games. So what we decided, it was actually Bobby Null, who was the lead area designer on Pillars of Eternity. He had this idea: what if each combat music was an homage to one of the Infinity Engine games?
Yeah, they're similar. You can see
very similar.
It is.
So we have a Baldur's Gate 1, and we have a Baldur's Gate 2 1, and we have an Icewind Dale 1 and an Icewind Dale 2 1, and they are all sort of homages. They were composed in a way that would make you remember those games and make you feel like you were playing those games that you remember.
I see. It is really here in that way too. Yeah, it's similar, not the same, of course, but some similarities. Yeah, and I wanted to ask about the instruments. What was the type of instruments you used, or the type of music? Some composers use this for a typical kind of particular kind of game. For some, Far Eastern type of instruments, or classical European instruments, or some instruments from Africa, or some wider territories. Some wood instruments or etc. What was the decision about or behind it?
So we were
because we heard I heard a really great cellist and also a really great violinist, a girl, and she was in the development making of video, I think too. So maybe you choose some soloists as well, also some orchestras, etc. Something. Can you tell something about it?
Oh, sure. So for all the music, right? Not just the combat music.
Yes.
Okay. I think that the decision was made very early on that we would use some sort of orchestral combination. Ultimately, what we ended up going with was sort of a classical orchestral layout with strings, woodwinds, brass, and percussion. Not a lot of percussion, actually, in Pillars of Eternity. That's one of the least used instrument groups. That was actually a deliberate choice. I didn't want to rely on groove-based music. I wanted to rely on phrase-based music and melodic music. So I deliberately
much more classical, not the modern type of electronic type of music. But it is fitted so much more well for a fantasy game in a middle age like world. But it is not so middle age. It's almost like in New Age kind of 17th, 18th century. So it's not a middle age. It is quite for better classical type of music.
It was a very traditional classical approach for sure. I just felt like that perhaps if I started with percussion, I would be locked into the percussion and I wouldn't know how to break away from that. And so my choice was to just keep it out of the discussion. And yes, we did have some soloists play. The violinist that you mentioned, her name is Katrina Schnell. She's a producer here at Obsidian, and she plays violin. She's a fantastic violinist. And we're very lucky to I just sent an email to Obsidian. I said, hey, does anyone play an instrument and read music? And she replied, and yeah, she played on quite a number of tracks. I think it was Old Song, Burial Isle,
Adra's Gift or Tina?
Andra's Gift, yes. And one of the Inn, the music for one of the Inns.
In music is really important in this game.
Yeah, well, you gotta has to feel like that rustic vibe, So and I played a little bit of classical guitar on it too.
Yeah, that's great.
Some of it was synthesizer based, particularly more for the dungeons. That had more. That I was a little more free.
It's a little bit different, feelings and mood for the music as well. Also, it's maybe more dangerous because you're in dungeon in the darkness. So it's many kind of creatures.
Unfamiliarity there. It's sort of strange,
Yeah. It's really more exciting in the dungeon. Yeah, it's in many game uses dungeons, but not so quite well as in this game, and also the music as well more fitable here. I think.
Thank you.
Very
moody.
Yes. And after that, you maybe a year, I think you made expansion White March in 2 parts for the game.
Yes.
It has a quite more different kind of soundtrack. I can, what can I think it's the similarities. You said about Icewind Dale. We can say the Icewind Dale is the base game for Philosophy. For the Heart of Darkness, or not Heart, what was the name? The first expansion of Icewind Dale was a little bit similar to this White March.
Heart of Winter.
Yes. I played it, but so long time ago. And it was a little bit feeling more with the title White March, a little bit more far north or far snower in the music as well, more colder type of music. But it was a decision, I think, yes, it was a decision to let the main team there, but you make some differences with the different instruments to make it more where if almost like in Scandinavia or something like that, it's quite it was quite great. What was the decisions about making the expansion soundtrack?
Yeah.
Verse.
So I think it goes back to the 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 narrative of the White March, which is about it's about this town called Stalwart Village, and they used to have this mine, and bad things started to happen. The village started to become less prosperous, and it started to they were suffering because of poverty, and the watcher, your party, your character and your party go there because you hear these rumors about this town and this mine, and you want to explore it and find out what more was going on. And it was very similar approach in a very high level of what is the story of the town? What is it like to be in these environments? You're in the snow, and it's very
Yes.
quiet
Feeling
and
in the music
beautiful.
as well.
Yeah.
And also there is a village team. There is a village team. Also the main
Yeah.
team for White March. Also this type of weather teams and new combat teams. Yeah, there are some new combat teams. Yeah, as well.
There is, yes, two new. One of the ones that was for White March, I actually took out of Pillars of Eternity. It was originally in Pillars of Eternity, but I saved it so that we could use it.
Expansion, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes these interesting things can happen. Yeah.
Yes.
It is fit more well for the expansion, or it is let it and disappeared from the main game, and you managed to put it in the expansion, or it was quite fitable track. What was
it was? I think we just
close.
In this way, it was more of a practical choice. We were limited by the amount of time that we had. We had to keep the scope small. We didn't have very much time to develop things, and there were other projects at Obsidian too. So we had a lot going on, and I think from a practical perspective, I reserved that one piece of music because I knew we would need it eventually, and it ended up saving some time from having to develop some new music. And then the second combat music that you hear in White March is actually the music that comes from the Kickstarter video from Project Eternity.
Oh, I see.
So I took that and I just developed it and I made it much longer.
Much more comfortable. Yeah, it's really great to hear such interesting things. And I heard that because you said that you haven't got the time for the whole orchestra, you must use some other things and MIDI or I don't know about these type of music things, but you must use some other type of composing because with MIDI and electronic things I don't know. So not real live orchestra music. Yeah, it is true or not?
Yes. Yes.
What is the difference? What are the differences between these?
So there are these things that you can buy that are called sample libraries, and what it is they take a violinist, for example, and they say, okay, play G, now play G sharp, now play A, and they do every single note on the violin, and they record it. Okay, let's play it piano, mezzo piano, mezzo forte, fortissimo,
And
and
you
then
can
you
mix
play the
it
same note.
also. Yeah, you can
Say
mix
again?
and use it. You can mix them and use it with
Yes.
a team. Yeah.
So I have a very large template where I've simulated an orchestra, and so I have these basically fake versions of all of the instruments in an orchestra, and so when you can't work with live musicians and you want to make orchestral music, you have to use these sample libraries. I think the biggest difference between the two, obviously, if you have a musician who's talented, you can provide them with a piece of music, and immediately they're going to play it, and it's going to sound amazing.
But it sounds much more better than live. Yeah.
And without very much effort too, because they practice,
hear at once and they can
musician.
do it at once. Yeah, it's much
Exactly.
more simpler or easier.
It's easier for them. In 2 minutes you hear your music back, and it's amazing already. With sample instruments, it's a lot harder to make it sound like a talented musician. When it sounds like a machine, very easy. So it doesn't. It's when you don't do anything and you just play, it sounds like a machine. It sounds fake. There's sort of an uncanny valley where it's just, you can clearly tell because it's too perfect. The computers are perfect. Mathematically. And a live musician is never perfect. They're human, and they interpret things and they add their emotions, and maybe they make a mistake, but no one knows, and it sounds good to everyone else. So that's the main difference. It takes a lot of effort to take the computer music and make it sound like it's real. So my preference is always to work with live musicians. It's a privilege, I have to say. I mean, wow, working with 70 people playing your music, I mean, that's such a privilege. It's a real blessing to be able to have that opportunity.
And you have a chorus as well, a choir, sing people choir.
Okay, I'll tell you the secret. It's fake. The choir is fake.
Yeah. But it's
choir is
good.
Choir is one of those ones where this is going to sound horrible. A real choir will blow a fake choir out of the water.
Of course, yeah.
Blow it out of the water. No comparison. But I find it easier for me personally to fake a choir than I can a string section or woodwind section or something like that.
Yes. And hard to organize a choir or just get one. It's hard nowadays, or needs so many more time or budget, something like that.
I think it's a budget question.
Yes.
Yeah, I would love to work.
Sorry?
I mean, that would be quite an opportunity to work with a choir. I actually used to sing in a choir, and I love choral music.
Maybe you can sing later.
No one wants to hear me sing. No, I don't think so. It might break your speaker. I don't know.
But luckily, in the second part, Fire, the second part of the franchise or series, we can hear more orchestra now because the pledge, the foundation in the budget way it is now. You have that we can hear a full orchestra soundtrack.
Yes.
That's really great.
Yeah, so there's a few things that we're talking about right now. It's great that we were able to hit that stretch goal. Very, very excited about that.
It was really big and fast. It was epic. The Kickstarter.
Yes, wasn't it?
Yeah. As was in the first one too. Also, it was really great to see that how many fans can make with you almost together a great game.
I mean, it's quite an honor to have for people to trust us to provide an experience that they want, and so directly too, where the people come directly to us and say, yes, we approve of what you're doing, and here we have feedback, and we want you to listen to that. That's there's no other comparison. I can't compare it to anything else. It's we all feel quite a responsibility now because people have placed their trust in us to.
Now you set the bar, you must manage to pull it out.
Yes, exactly, yes. It's a responsibility, and I think that's part of what makes it interesting, because it's a collaboration in some ways, and collaborations are always interesting. That's why I love working on video games. But for Pillars 2, we have a larger budget to work with, and so I guess the question is, like you were saying, so what are we now? We have this bigger budget. What will that enable us to do? I think, whereas with the first game, we focused on the area and the story of the area. We will continue to do that for Pillars 2, but now we're going to focus on not just the areas, but also the characters as well. So the characters in your party, the main characters in, the bad guys, other people that you meet.
For a mayor or something like that, yeah.
Say again?
For a mayor or something like that.
Someone important, yeah. We will focus more on telling stories with music about those characters as well. And it's something that we're talking about right now. It's unclear 100% how we're going to do it, because, as I mentioned before, to do that it requires technology to support that. And we're working on stuff like that right now, and we're still in the experimental phase, where we're trying things out and we're trying to see what is manageable. And we're trying to figure out a way that we can achieve character melodies and leitmotifs, but in a way that is manageable with the amount of time that we have and the amount of resources we have. There's always that, what I was mentioning before, that sort of balance that you constantly have to strike.
So it's
exciting.
Pre-production. It is in pre-production now.
Yes. Well, the game is in full production right now. The areas are being made, quests are being made, the story is being written, art is being created.
And there is a new engine, or it is the same, just enhanced it, or what is the same?
It's a new version. We made Pillars 1 on Unity version 4. We upgraded to Unity version 5, but we've also enhanced it with a lot of...
Yeah, like the weather effects and everything else, and more better animations, etc.
Yes, better animations. Basically everything that we felt could be improved from the base game, we took an opportunity to
more alive to the game. The people, it's a little bit more similar to Elder Scrolls Oblivion, where there was a Radiant AI system. It is almost like the same. It's feel more reliable, so it is really good. And you can it is help for you also. So this new type of possibilities, the engine effects, it makes you much more maybe easier to compose some things. Yes, it's really great.
We completely redid the audio engine from scratch for Pillars 2. It was hard to make the first game. Our technology, we just didn't have the opportunity to develop it to make it easy for us to make the sounds and then put them into the game, music included. For Pillars 2, my goal from the very beginning was, let's make the process of making the game very easy so that we can focus on interesting sounds, making the sounds themselves as high quality rather than just focusing on having them play back in the game. And one of the things that we can do now is our music system is much more flexible than it was before. And that gives us a lot of opportunities to do interesting things, to do things that are a little bit more reactive to the actions of the player.
It's really good. It's more great possibilities.
Yeah. So for example, in combat, remember I was talking about the little spider versus the dragon, and the music was the same. Maybe now when you fight a little spider, the music isn't so intense because you're just going to kill them in 2 hits. But the dragon will feel very epic and huge and feel like there's a lot of stakes at play.
Yeah, see, it was similar, I think, in Dragon Age Inquisition. How I played not so long ago with it. When the dragon came, it was more robustic. Yeah, but dragons in this game are also rare. Yeah, they are big enemies and hard to be dead. Yeah.
Yes. Very hard.
Yeah, so it's really great. And also I heard that and found some videos, as I mentioned before in the video earlier. You conducted the teams of the Pillars of Eternity and also the Tyranny, maybe the second part too, that fire at Budapest, with the orchestra team, also with the Hungarian conductor, Peter, if I remember well,
yes.
And how you can manage to do that, or how you find them, or communicated with them, also before the conducting and also recording, and also when you recorded and conducted it, you were in Los Angeles maybe or something like that, I don't know.
Yes.
And how do you manage to communicate with them? How to make the exact sounds and music that you wanted?
Yeah. When I found out we had a budget to record orchestra, I contacted an acquaintance of mine who is an orchestrator. So an orchestrator is someone who takes a composer's music and makes it work with musicians. They make sure that the registers are correct and they also print the parts and the conductor score and all that stuff. And so his name is Tim Davies. He's actually a very successful orchestrator and also composer right now, actually. And he does lots of films, animated features, video games.
Yeah, I heard about him, I think.
Yeah. At the time, he had just finished working on the Disney film Frozen. So I contacted him and I asked him, that's the little thing called Frozen. So he just did that, and I contacted him and I asked him, do you know anyone that can help me? I'm going to need an orchestrator, and I need to work with an orchestra. Can you recommend anyone? And so he recommended who was his assistant at the time. His name is Ryan Humphreys, to do the orchestration, and he recommended the East Connection Orchestra to record the orchestra with, which is obviously in Budapest, Hungary. And so I contacted East Miklos at East Connection, and we talked about it, and we arranged the recording session. And then I worked with Ryan on the music, so I had to write all the music and deliver it to Ryan, and he translated that into a score format so that we can give that to the recording studio. We sent PDFs over to them, and then on the day of the recording session, I think they started in the morning, so for me it was maybe 3 o'clock in the morning.
So the time zone,
the time zone.
Maybe 8 hours, something like that.
8 hours, yeah. Hey, I'm not complaining. Working with an orchestra on my music is once in a lifetime opportunity. So I'll wake up anytime you want me to. And we did the whole thing over Skype.
Oh, I see. As we know.
As we are right now. Yeah. So they would play each piece of music, and they would stop, and we would talk. Me and Peter would talk, or Ryan and Peter would talk, and we would discuss. Okay, this part, can we try it a little like this? And we would just discuss things and play it, and then we'd record it. And after that whole process, it took maybe 8 hours to record about 44 minutes of music.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much the whole day, yeah. And they sent that back to us, and we took the files, and then that's how we made the score for Pillars of Eternity.
And I see, well, there were some academic students, maybe, musicians who just learn, but they're really talented as well. And also there are middle-aged ones, and there are some other men. So it was very in age and everything else, yeah. But they really work well because maybe because of that they can handle some differences really well with the style of playing on a violin, etc. So it was really really great. They can handle it really well.
They have to show up and read music that they've never seen before and make it sound good.
It seems hard at first, so yeah. But
so they're clearly very, very talented.
And they will work on that fire as well. If we can see it inside, they will work on that fire as well. Or
for the
second part.
Sorry, what's the question?
They will work for that fire as well.
I'm sure that we'll work with them again. Yes, I'm sure we will.
Oh, it's really great.
I'm sure we will. Very, very, very talented, very dedicated, very high quality.
I mean, some of them they played with the game also after the recording.
I don't know. The thing is, we have the recording session, and then I never see them again. So I don't know if it. Maybe a few of them did. Hopefully they did.
But you played with the game, yeah?
Right? Yeah, exactly.
It is quite good, and there are many types of editions and release type of editions with the game. A smaller one, and a big adventure and special edition release. It's great with the maps and books and everything else. It was quite great, and PDFs making of documentary. So it was really great. And you made Tyranny as well. It is an Obsidian game also. It was after Pillars of Eternity, the first part of Pillars of Eternity, or when it came the possibility. How came the possibility to do this game and to do the soundtrack? Because it was almost a great surprise. If I remember, for me too, and the fans, it was coming out almost nothing.
We worked with Paradox Interactive on the first game. They helped publish and distribute Pillars of Eternity, and I think this how Tyranny came about is they wanted to work with us on another isometric game. After Pillars of Eternity, and so we started working on that project. I think it was being developed towards. I think they started development in about maybe late 2014, early 2015, and
they make it quite fast. It seems in 1.5 years. It's quite fast.
Yeah.
It seems.
It was. I think it was in development. Perhaps about 2 years, 2.5 years in total. I know that we were thinking about starting the project after we shipped South Park: Stick of Truth. So it may even be longer than that. To be honest, just developing the concept for the game and writing the story.
It's a little bit different, yeah.
It's much different. Yeah, very different. This is you're more the bad guy, and you're at war, whereas Pillars of Eternity is more.
It's a much more other kind of perspective, yeah. So it's a really good and great idea because not so much game try to do this. So
yes,
and also the world is a little bit different. Many people thought that it's similar. There are some similarities about the Romanic times, maybe. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Also some sci-fi elements maybe there in some designs, but so it's a quite unique world also again. So you can manage to do that in just 3-4 years with 2 great games. How great
it was! Was definitely working at Obsidian. We get to work on games like this, and it's an amazing experience. It's what can I say? It's a dream come true to be able to work on a game like Pillars of Eternity or Tyranny or Pillars of Eternity 2 or Fallout or South Park.
Fallout was really great again. One of the best Fallout episodes
Thank you.
in the series, and many fans told that. So, and
Yeah.
about Tyranny, that it was a little different in the soundtrack as well. Yeah, it's more
Yes, much different.
harsh and feel more painful sometimes in the way that you is a baddie, so you are a baddie as well.
Yes.
So it was not so much fairy tale like, you know.
No, you're right. The subject matter. So Pillars is serious subject matter, but Tyranny is
Game
more.
of Thrones like, you know.
Yes, it's the consequence of war, and war is a terrible thing, right? It's and
hard and bad decisions in the consequence. But of course, for the characters, not so. Firstly, but because you are ready now, but it is much more harder decisions in that way.
Yes, exactly. Very tough decisions for the player, and for the music. I didn't want it to sound like Pillars of Eternity at all.
Of course.
So the choice was made in terms of instruments. We kept it simple. It's strings and brass, you know, like Gustav Holst, you know, Mars kind of thing. Very traditional. I mean, it's not the first time people have done that to represent war, but it's effective.
John Williams liked Holst as well, you know, for Star Wars.
Right.
So yeah.
And we also used solo cellist, solo cello, solo violin, and solo singer.
But not the same as for Pillars of Eternity, or
yes, the singer.
Did you call it in Budapest also? Or?
We did, yes. Same orchestra as well, East Connection Orchestra. We recorded that, and much of the music is orchestral. A lot more of the soundtrack for Tyranny is live music, whereas with Pillars there was a mix between computer music and live music. I think we recorded a similar amount of music. It's about 45 minutes of music, and there are a lot of foreign elements, a lot of synthesizer type elements that kind of sound organic.
But it's very more fitable for this turn, than for Pillars of Eternity.
Yes. And the tone needed to be different. It needed to. I didn't want the tone to feel oppressive because war is oppressive. I wanted the music to. Always, when I approach music, I want to. What's the human element of this? How would I feel living in this world? And so I always attempt to represent that with the music, and so I didn't want the music to feel tyranny, you know, so sad, you know. Maybe it is like that sometimes, but
sometimes. Not too generic. It is more real and more for the human soul. So it was really great, yeah. And you have a really great Tyranny T-shirt.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I wore it today. Obsidian Entertainment developer. Obsidian developer.
So it's a unique one. We can get that, yeah.
I don't know. Good question.
Or maybe in with a foundation or something like that.
maybe let's talk after the interview.
Yeah, because there are many type of T-shirts for many games, and they are really famous because the fans are really like the word of the games, and it's represented as well with the T-shirt. With my Magic, for example, I have 3 or 4 too. So it is really great, and it is give the memories back again after 5 years. So it is really great. It's just an idea, a little simple idea that maybe.
Okay, let's talk about it. I don't know if we sell the T-shirts or not, but if I like a video game or if I like anything and there's a T-shirt for it, I'm gonna want to probably get it. So it makes sense to me.
I don't know. There was an idea with the Obsidian about it, but just I'm not thought about that.
Yeah.
Or some pen drives, pen drives for the team's design of the game. It's quite things. Yeah, maybe sculpture later for the special edition or something like that.
There was one company for Pillars of Eternity 2 who made a T-shirt.
Oh, I see.
And it's more of an artistic T-shirt, less your standard with the logo. But I don't know. I think it was limited edition actually. This was a while ago. I don't remember what came of that, but it was pretty interesting.
But it made by fans or something like that.
I think it was made by a company that makes T-shirts, but it's more of a boutique T-shirt company, not one of the big ones. And I think it was a limited edition.
Maybe that will be for the second part. That's why
yeah.
Yes, it is quite great. And we talk about about video games, but do you want to make later some new music for video movies or TV series, etc., or you want to stay at the video game side? What will be your decision about that? If somebody wants to hire for a movie or a TV series, what will be your answer?
Well,
or what type of movies or TV series do you want to make some music?
Anything that where people feel a connection to what they're watching or what they're playing, anything like that, I'm always in favor of that sort of experience. Obviously, you can't always choose the projects that you work on. Sometimes you just need to do it because you need, frankly, you need to work, right?
You must choose. You can't do 2 or 3 work at one time, so it is not impossible, no?
Yes,
to make
exactly.
a video game and the movie soundtrack all together. You must choose. Yeah.
Yes, it's hard. I used to. So when I started until about 3 years ago, I was a composer's assistant for television.
I see.
And I was working at Obsidian, and that was very hard. I didn't sleep very much, and I think I got to a certain point in my life where I did that maybe for about 10 years, and it took so much effort out of me to do that it was too hard. So I just simplified things and just Obsidian, just video games right now. But you never know what the future is going to be like. I mean, I would love to work on everything. Just being able to write music is so amazing. I would love to work on a great movie or something like that. I think that would be a fantastic. But if I did do it, I would want to give it the attention that it deserves. I would want to be able to focus on it, and I don't think that I could do that.
You don't want to rush. Sometimes
a lot of movies are made rushed, and just because of the production reality, maybe the old music didn't work and they need new music very fast, and it turns out really good. I think there's a lot of great examples of movies where they made it very fast and the score was made very fast and it's a great score. And there's also a lot of examples of movies where the composer had a lot of time to make a great score, like the Lord of the Rings movies, for example. He had about a year, I think, maybe more, to develop the music and themes. And that would be, I think that more than anything is the dream, is to be able to simply just spend time on just thinking about the music.
Enough time.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. But it is sometimes just a dream because it's impossible, or because of the timelines, etc. So it's hard.
Yeah. In my current role right now as audio director at Obsidian, there's always competing priorities, and it's always a balancing act. And I'm sure that would be the case if I just focused on music too. But yes, I do find myself juggling lots of balls in the air at the same time, and in one way, it's very gratifying that I can do that. The fact that I'm able to pull it off, I think, is sort of gratifying. But it does take a lot of concentration. and it does at times come. You have to make compromises with yourself. So maybe I wanted to write 10 minutes of music, but something else that's unrelated to the 10 minutes of music happens, and so now it's instead of 10 it has to be 5 or something like that, or maybe I write a piece of music and I'm not really happy with it, and I wish I could spend some more time on it, but I can't because I have to move on, or there's
most
something
of the
else.
composers said that, and also some directors that in when you see back to your maybe one of the greatest movie of all time, it's always you said that it could be more better, it could be more better. So it's a long way. And how do you in just shortly how do you do the voices and also the sound effects, how you can manage to do that? So you hire some people from Obsidian also, or or how do you manage to find them also fit the character or the voice well? Because maybe that is the hardest part, that you can find the voice that fit quite the most well. But you could manage it because the game is really good. But sometimes there are not more budget enough for for all of the people voiced. And also in Skyrim or something like that, they sadly need to do 3 or 4 parts with one voice because you have got 500 man to do for the 500 type of characters for the game, as to different voices. But you can manage to do that. How do you do that?
We work with a lot of actors. Los Angeles has many talented actors here, so we're very lucky to be able to work with such a large community of actors here, not just in Los Angeles but also around the world. And
maybe with some animals too. For some
animal sounds. We do those here. Some of the sounds that you hear in Pillars of Eternity is us pretending to be animals, and then we just put it in the computer and manipulate it so that it doesn't sound like that.
As in Lord of the Rings as well, so sometimes.
It's fun. Sound effects are a lot of fun to make, and sometimes we'll purchase a sound effects library where it's a collection of sounds that's already made, and then we take that and manipulate it so that it works for our game. Sometimes we record our own sound effects. That's also a lot of fun because it's your work, and you can make it very specific and tailor it to the game itself. There's a lot of effort goes into working with the voice actors and making those sound effects, just perhaps more so than the amount of effort it takes.
Maybe more funnier also, in general, than funny moments can happen there.
You guys don't see the embarrassing parts, so we take that out.
Of course, many hard and embarrassing parts also. And as the last question, in these hard of works, how you can manage your free time? Well, what are your hobbies?
That's a great question. I'm probably the worst person to ask that question because I get very fixated on my work, and all I can think about is my work all the time.
So you're a workaholic.
Workaholic, yes, definitely. It's not healthy, but I think as the more I do this, as the years go by, I've been fortunate to be working on video games. In August, it'll be 10 years working on video games.
Congratulations.
And I think the more time that goes by, the older I get, the more I value my free time, and so you have to,
family, etc. You must balance the time.
You have to balance the time. It's tricky, and for Pillars 1. Because it was my first project, my first big project where it was just my music and I wasn't working for someone else, and it was a large scale project, I felt a responsibility to myself to take the opportunity and seize the day, carpe diem, and not miss this opportunity. And because I felt the worst thing that could happen is that I didn't work hard enough, and then people didn't like it, and I feel and then have regret that I didn't push myself, you know. So I worked really, really hard, weekends, nights, all the time.
It seemed in the
Just,
quality.
you know, just because I was so worried about that. So my concept was, I am going to do everything possible. I'm going to spend all of my time on this score to make it as good as I can make it. And if it comes out and people don't like it, I know it's not because I didn't try. And I know it's because maybe I'm not cut out for doing this. I'm not meant to write music. Fortunately, it didn't turn out that way, but I was prepared for that.
I
you know.
see. If you prepare for the worst.
Yes, and the other thing is, this is such a privilege to work on video games and write music for video games. Really, it's a privilege. So I take that very
and a unique thing nowadays
seriously.
too. It's because it's not so general in this epic orchestral way for video games that general as for movies, of course. So it was almost a one-time possibility.
Yes,
if
and
you
I
do
treat
it,
every project like that.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be the
you
last
must grab
one,
it
you know.
at once. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really, really great. And now you are in your studio or at home or?
Yeah, this is my studio at work. This is Obsidian. Yeah.
Sadly, maybe the audience maybe not seeing this, because later I will see that I can manage to do in video from not just podcast. But we will see. But I see it.
Okay.
Yeah, in a special way. It's really great. Sometimes you put some drawings, signs on the wall, yeah, when you work it, or some little animals or something like that.
Inspiration. Yes, I have.
Inspiration.
I have Wally.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. The robot's really great.
And then I have.
So you like animations? Oh yeah.
Little Star Wars.
That's it's really great. They bring some force to you, yeah.
That's right.
Some energy.
I need the force.
Yeah. Maybe later you will be in Star Wars too.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Wow.
The force is strong with you, so in making music.
That would be a dream come true, but sadly, I think that probably is not in my future.
Yeah. Who knows, as you say before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for the conversation and the interview. I think it was really interesting, fun, and sometimes. It was really hard to know so much things as you do at once. How you can do that, but you can manage it, as we can see. So we really thankful for your work for the first part, for the second part in the near future for Fidelity, and also for Tyranny and New Vegas as well. And it was a really pleasure to play with these games, also to hear the sounds and music. So sometimes I just go up for YouTube for only hearing your themes again, live or not live. Either way, it's really, really great. So that's why there are many musician fans in video gamers, because I think in general, in balance, in numbers, in the video game fan base are much more music friendly, but the general people's in numbers and statistics, I don't think so, sadly, nowadays. nowadays. It wasn't in the way as in the past, but nowadays there are sadly not so many music classical music fan people there. But in the video game basis fans universe, there are much more channels. So, and that's because of your work. So, your wonderful work, and I
Thank
think
you.
there will be more later and more.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Andros. It was really great talking to you, and very encouraging to hear that that you appreciate the things that we do here, and very grateful to have the opportunity to talk to you today.
I can say all the same almost to you. So thank you. Maybe there are some collaborations in the near future, some other videos of the conducting composing of this Pillars of Eternity 2. If you can be participate, you can accept it or later, maybe see.
Okay, yes,
Maybe.
absolutely. Anytime. You
And
tell
that
me.
time, for sure, for video, I'm not sure now that if the viewers can see it in video form, but in the second part it will, so I can trust it that. So thank you again, and have a great weekend for this week, and some
Thank you.
and some and some sleeping also, not just work,
Yeah. Yes. That's we can't live
some
without sleep,
wellness,
right?
something like that. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, and we say goodbye to the other friends of the whole world who see this video, this conversation. So goodbye.
Bye now.